7:10. 7:10 dash 11.5.
That I, right, or
No,
I,
um,
11 dot I,
11.5.
okay, see, 7:10,
dash,
a 5, I thought you said I, okay.
and then little a in parentheses.
I got that.
So little a in parentheses says, no person shall construct or modify a public community water system prior to obtaining a permit from the department pursuant to this subchapter. Has the town received approval for the temporary equipment that's being purchased under Resolution 79?
I'm not aware, but I will certainly find out from our engineer, and, don't mind, I'll email you tomorrow with an answer for that.
I don't want that to be too late. I'd like to instead request the township not pass this resolution to purchase equipment for something that has not been approved by the department, contractually holding the township responsible to something that a regulatory agency has not given approval for. I would not support as a taxpayer this decision, in my opinion.
The pilot study that
Do you want
our
to say
consultant completed called for, recommended, carbon treatment like what's going to be provided by Calgon. And when our engineer reached out to Calgon and other vendors, and I think we talked about this when he was here, he did clarify, what's that? Sorry about it. He did make clear that Calgon had a very limited supply of this equipment. And in fact, they had other interested buyers. So they required, Calgon did, very quick action on the town's part to make sure that we can get this equipment as soon as humanly possible. Town's not gonna do anything without DEP's approval on this in terms of installation. But yes, we are gonna require this equipment, and we are gonna move forward. That's my advice to the town.
Are you familiar with the citation that Daniel?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Yeah, I mean, I think I appreciate your concern, but I also think, that for council to make a decision, I think the township solicitor should provide them with a legal opinion on it. No offense to you, but this is the first, we're hearing of it. It requires some review.
It may be the first that this group is hearing from
Right.
Danielle, the utility engineer, but I'm fully confident that Alonzo's aware of the permitting requirements. We know that he's been in touch with DEP to discuss the concept of what we're doing. And we're fully aware that any installation of any equipment like this on the township's water supply is going to require DEP. It's also going to take, correct me if I'm wrong on timing, Scott, it's going to take at least a month before that equipment can get here.
Correct.
So, since time is an issue, and we know the public is concerned about time, and we've represented that we're gonna move forward with this interim treatment as quickly as we can, that's the reason for taking this step.
In your experience, you're a utility engineer yourself, in your experience, if you've had experience with this type of interim treatment, do you see any reason why DEP would not approve this?
2 weeks ago, I asked the question directly of Russell, do you need a permit? And he replied, no, which is why I wanted to read the code, so your solicitor could provide you with his legal opinion,
Thank you.
whether or not it was applicable. But just to highlight on what Tony mentioned, if it takes 4 weeks anyhow, for the equipment to get here, we'll have more meetings within those 4 weeks' time. And perhaps it's the more prudent thing to do to make sure we have a regulatory agency approval or support before we expend the money to purchase something that we don't know if it will meet.
To the extent that it's needed, and to the extent that your citation is on point. So we'll take a look at it.
It seems to me, you know, in the text of the resolution that we are, by passing, authorizing the clerk to go ahead and give the notice of award within 10 days. So we would have 10 days, in theory, to take a second look at this and make sure that everything's in order. I think that we should pass the resolution today, and then if upon further review there is any concern, then we don't have to award the contract, and we can come back at a later date. Otherwise, I think we should move forward with all possible haste.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think we, as a township, are working closely with the DEP on this. We did the pilot study with the DEP, so they know exactly what's going on. And I agree with you, Victoria. This is something that we need to move forward with.
I'm gonna have to,
When was the DEP, when did they receive the pilot study results?
I don't know the exact date.
I don't know if they have.
Why not?
I don't think they've received an application for a permit.
What's your reason for saying that?
Well, my understanding is that pilot results were due in August, according to the MOA. And they were dated August 2015, and they were dated February 29th, 2016.
So by reading the MOA, you assume something's out of compliance.
I am not aware of an application being submitted because I spoke with your engineer directly at your last meeting, who did not believe that a permit was necessary.
Well, Russ said what he said, but we're talking about the permanent solution. I think there may also be a distinction between the permanent solution and the interim treatment that we're installing. There may be. Maybe that's something you should have looked into before you brought this to our attention. So I'm not afraid to say that. No, we're working really hard to move ahead on this. And I think this is wrong to bring this up now, as if something wrong is happening. No, absolutely not. So we'll look at the site. If you're right on the law, then we'll deal with it. But I trust our utility engineer and his experience. If he thinks a permit is not needed for this equipment, then I believe him. Yes, I do.
Well, I can recommend you don't take the engineer's advice on the law. I will not tell you my advice on the law. I am not an attorney. So thus, I brought to you the code, and I ask of your profession, which I appreciate and respect, that you utilize that and interpret the code.
We'll take a look at it.
I'm gonna have to, I think I agree with Daniel here. We rushed, we felt like we were under the gun with the library demolition. We felt we were trying, I felt anyway, that we were trying to beat the clock to get something done, without, I think, as much information as we could have had. I don't wanna repeat the same mistake here. I don't know how long it will take to get the approval, but, you know, we'll be meeting in another couple of weeks. Why not just err on the side of caution? And, you know, why would we wanna, if there's a possibility that the DEP might reject our, application for some reason, why should we be on the line? Or anything contractually if we don't know how that might actually turn out.
And I understand how you feel about that, but what happens when the equipment's not there, and then this drags out for longer, and people are very upset about the supposed, you know, problems we have? I've said all along that our water's safe.
It could be
I
worse.
believe our water's safe.
If you don't test it,
So
it
if
could
we-
be worse.
So our water is safe, but we really have worked hard to make sure that we're working with our residents because we don't want them to have that undue fear. And I'm fine with going forward with this. Tony, you can make sure you talk to Russ tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
I
sure.
can't, I mean, in the mistakes that the DEP has done with what they put out in that letter, last weekend, you know, maybe there is a cause to maybe take a step back because the DEP isn't doing their duty. But I believe we have been working diligently with them to come up with a solution. And I think we need to move forward with it.
I wouldn't disagree that we're not working hard. I think we are. But I mean, just recent events in my mind show that there are possibilities for missteps and misunderstandings to occur between two different parties, and I just, I know we're working hard, I know we have every intention of getting a temporary solution in, but, I'm taking a step back from library, and I wanna make sure we have all the i's dotted and all the t's crossed before we sign anything contractually. And we're talking about, a lot of money.
This
So-
resolution is just to authorize the funds to enter into that agreement, correct?
Correct.
It is not an authorization to execute a PO or execute a contract, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Now, Scott, you said that,
Just because we're authorizing execution of this contract, does that mean we have to sign the contract?
We're gonna sign an appropriate form of contract, we'll take a look at it.
Can hear you. We will,
Tony, if you could just make it clear to everybody to understand that what council would be doing by passing this resolution tonight.
Authorizing the township's entry into an agreement with Calgon to buy the equipment. But we'll enter into a form of contract that is most appropriate for the township.
But I just confirmed with Mr. Michelle, just because we authorize the execution of the contract doesn't necessarily mean that we have to enter into the contract.
That's
So if something came up
we would not.
where we didn't have the permitting, then we wouldn't have to enter in, we would only enter into the contract if we were ready.
If that's.
Or
the case,
authorized.
Right, if
So
that's the case.
we would review,
Work it out.
yeah, we would review the site, we won't sign the contracts until we have the adequate assurances from the DEP that we are in compliance with any of the statutes that you stated. So all we're gonna do is authorize the firm, authorize the money, authorize us to enter into a contract. It does not obligate us to be in the contract if we are not allowed to be in the contract.
Could you read the resolution more than just by title, so that way it's stated for everybody to hear it?
Read the whole resolution.
Yes, please.
Whereas the Township of Moorestown requires a contract for goods and services for the rental of granular activated carbon filters at the North Church Street Water Treatment Plant. And whereas this carbon filter system is intended to serve as an immediate interim solution to address the concerns raised by residents with regard to water quality. Whereas pursuant to NJSA 40A:11-5(1)GG, the township is authorized to enter into a contract with the vendor to acquire the filter system without public bidding. And whereas consistent with public contracting laws, the township engineer received 3 quotes from qualified vendors and has, via correspondence dated February 22nd, 2016, recommended a contract be awarded to Calgon Carbon for the rental and potential purchase of the equipment. And whereas a determination of value form certifying the costs associated with said services will exceed $17,500 has been filed with the township clerk. And whereas there are sufficient funds for the proposed purchase. Whereas an executed business entity disclosure certification which certifies the contractor has not made any reportable contributions to a political candidate, committee, in the Township of Moorestown in the previous 1 year, and that the contract will prohibit the contractor from making any reportable contributions through the term of the contract has been received by the township clerk. And whereas an executed political contribution disclosure form was filed with the municipal clerk at least 10 days prior to the award of the contract. And whereas the Township of Moorestown has met the provisions of the New Jersey Local Unit Pay-to-Play Law to award a contract under the non-fair and open contract division of the law. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Moorestown, County of Burlington, State of New Jersey, that 1, Calgon Carbon Corporation, whose business address is 400 Calgon Carbon Drive, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15205, is hereby awarded a contract for the rental of granular activated carbon filters in an amount not to exceed $376,400, which fee is based on an initial rental fee of $170,000, a month-to-month rental fee of $11,400, not exceeding 12 months, and a demobilization fee of $35,000. 2, upon expiration of the rental term of the contract, the township of Moorestown shall have the option of to purchase the equipment for a cost of $206,400. 3, entry into a contract with the selected vendor is hereby approved, and the execution of an appropriate form of contract is hereby authorized. 4, a copy of the aforementioned contractual agreement shall be filed in the office of the township clerk and made available for public inspection. 5, the business entity disclosure certification, contribution disclosure, and determination of value form be placed on file with this resolution. And 6, the township clerk is hereby authorized to publish a notice of award of said contract in the official newspaper in accordance with the local public contracts law within 10 days of its passage.
So if you go back to number 3, the appropriate form of contract. When we sign that contract,